For more, I'm joined by CBS News White House correspondent Paula Reid and CBSN political reporter Caitlin Huey-Burns. Great to see you both. Paula, I want to begin with the president's vaccine summit at the White House, which lacked some key voices, including members of President-elect Biden's team. What is President Trump's coronavirus strategy in his final months in office?
Well, Elaine, the president is touting the vaccine as a great accomplishment for his administration. Today at that summit, he was applying his America First philosophy to the vaccine itself, signing an executive order that he says will require that U.S. citizens receive the vaccine before it is allocated to foreign countries. But even top officials involved in Operation Warp Speed say they're not exactly sure what that executive order does. Now, yesterday, the New York Times reported that over the summer, Pfizer actually offered the Trump administration additional doses of the vaccine, but they were declined. And now, reportedly, those have been allocated to foreign countries. So at this point, like many of the different phases in the COVID response here at the White House, there is mixed messaging. The strategy is not clear, and there's this big open question as well as to whether there is enough trust in this vaccine for the government to even deliver the doses that it has already acquired.
Well, Caitlin, President-elect Biden introduced his health team nominees in Wilmington, Delaware. He vows to deliver 100 million doses of the vaccine during his first 100 days in office. What more do we know about the president-elect's plan, and are there any potential obstacles?
That's right. 100 million shots in the first 100 days was part of a three-part plan the president-elect introduced today while he was rolling out his top health team. In addition to those vaccine pledges, he also pledged to have a majority of schools reopened by the end of those first 100 days. He also said that he would mandate masks wherever he could. That means in federal buildings or when it comes to interstate travel on planes and buses and trains. There are, of course, limits to what that kind of mandate would look like. And given that there have been many governors that haven't implemented mask mandates in their states, shows the challenge that that could bring. The president-elect also said that he was calling on the Trump administration to work with them in scaling up the manufacturing of the vaccine and to help with the distribution. The first 100 days of a presidency are basically the first quarter of an administration, and it's something that candidates talk a lot about on the campaign trail as they're outlining what their agenda might look like while they're campaigning. They often talk about these first 100 days. These first 100 days for the Biden team, they have acknowledged that the pandemic will really take over that first quarter of a Biden presidency, acknowledging that the immediate challenge at hand is the pandemic and the economic fallout, of course, from the pandemic. So they're not engaging in kind of hypotheticals of what might come up in the early days of the administration. They know that this is the top challenge facing them, and that's been a theme throughout the rollouts of the president-elect's team.
Well, Paula, meantime, President Trump is still fighting the results of the election, but the Supreme Court on Tuesday rejected a Trump campaign lawsuit to decertify Pennsylvania's results. Does the president have any more viable options for challenging the election?
Well, viable is the key word there, Elaine. There is no viable path to litigate his way to 270 electoral votes, but that is not stopping the Trump legal team, even though they did face a setback earlier this week when their lead attorney, Rudy Giuliani, tested positive for COVID. In the same breath that the president was wishing him well, he was also signaling that he will continue this fight. And even if things are not viable in court, the fact is that the president, the Republican Party, has been able to raise a lot of money off of this fight and of framing an election that was, quote unquote, stolen, even though judges look at these claims, are seeking evidence and just saying, look, there's not enough evidence here to support your claims. And that is happening in all of the key states as those key states certify the results. And that's part of why you saw the highest court in the land, what the president's attorneys once thought was their great hope to maybe overturn some of the outcome. They're not having it either. So there's really no viable legal options left, but it doesn't mean that they're not going to keep filing lawsuits, again, in an effort to paint this as a fight and encourage people to donate to this fight.
Yeah, so Caitlin, Tuesday is the safe harbor deadline requiring states to resolve these election disputes before the Electoral College meets. Have the president and his allies acknowledged this, and what is next in the election certification process?
They haven't, and as Paula indicated, even though the window for these legal challenges appears to be closing, especially with that move from the Supreme Court today, that hasn't stopped the president and his team from at least rhetorically pushing against these results. They're doing so, of course, as they're facing a runoff election in Georgia for two key Senate seats that will determine the balance of power in the Senate. So on one hand, you have the president and his team continuing to challenge results. On the other hand, they need voters to turn out in Georgia for them in those January runoffs. But what's significant in terms of the timeline here today is, you noted, the safe harbor deadline, which means that this is the deadline today for states to certify results. And we've seen lots and lots of states certify those results. In Georgia, they certified them again yesterday after 2 recounts. The next big moment to watch for is a week from yesterday. So next Monday, on the 14th of December, is when the electors meet and put forward those results. And most states require that electors are faithful to the results of their state election. So electors are, in most states, are supposed to vote for whoever won their state. Then the big deadline that we'll be watching for after that is January 6th. And that's when Congress convenes and they certify the results of the election. And after that, that's it. The window, as we already know, is pretty much close to being closed. On January 6th, after those results are certified by Congress, which we expect them to be, that is it. And then inauguration, of course, will take place on January 20th.
All right, Paula, President-elect Biden, we have learned, plans to nominate retired Army General Lloyd Austin to be his Secretary of Defense. Can you tell us more about his qualifications and the special waiver he would need in order to become Mr. Biden's defense secretary?
Well, Elaine, Austin retired in 2016 after 4 decades in the Army. He's never held a political position, and President-elect is urging Congress to waive this legal prohibition against a recently serving military officer running the Pentagon. Now, Austin would be the first black leader of the Pentagon, certainly a historic appointment, particularly as the Biden-Harris administration incoming is under a lot of pressure to diversify their cabinet and make sure that it reflects not only America, but also the people that put them here at the White House in a couple weeks. Now, Austin is widely admired for his military service, which includes leading troops in combat in Iraq and Afghanistan, overseeing U.S. military operations throughout the greater Middle East as head of Central Command. But again, this waiver could potentially be a sticking point, which is why you see the president-elect out there lobbying for a waiver.
All right, Paula Reid and Caitlin Huey-Burns, wonderful to see you both. Thanks very much.